Welcome to the Behaviour Smart podcast, brought to you by Behaviour Smart, the incident recording system that improves behaviour. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy the Behaviour Smart podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Behaviour Smart podcast. My name's Dean Cotton. I'm the CEO of Behaviour Smart, and this podcast is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit different because we've got lots of great guests lined up, including an actual Olympian. We've got a CEO of a group of primary schools. We've got a whole range of different people. But as I've been talking to people about the Behaviour Smart podcast, a lot of people have said to me, well, why don't you tell your story? So that's what I'm going to do today. So it's just me and you. And I hope you enjoy this. I'm going to go back to 1977 when I was 6 years old, and I had lots of difficulties at school. And part of that was because I am autistic, I've got communication difficulties, and part of it is just because sometimes I was just a little bit of a sod. But what I'm going to do is start there. And my earliest childhood experience when I was 6 years old, I was given a task to do. It was mid-December, and I was asked to write a Christmas card, make a Christmas card using a variety of media. So I went to get some materials, some card, and I made a little Christmas card. I drew a Christmas tree on the front, and I come to write Happy Christmas across the top. And I knew how to spell happy because there was a program on TV at the time called Only When I Laugh, and the theme tune to that was Happy, I'm Happy. And I remember asking my dad, what does that say? And what does it spell? And he said it spells happy. So even now, at the age of 54, when I come to write the word happy, I still sing in my head Happy, and then I've got it right. So I wrote happy on my Christmas card, and I come to spell Christmas, and I didn't have a clue how to spell Christmas. So I went to ask the teacher, and to my surprise, the teacher said, for God's sake, Cotton, use your initiative. And I thought, well, I've asked you. So I went back and I sat down and I thought, right, how can I spell happy? So I thought, well, I could get a dictionary. So I went to get a dictionary. I got halfway across the classroom and the teacher said, Cotton, sit down. I said, but miss, she said, no, sit down, get on with your work. And I said, but miss, she said, no, sit down and get on with your work. So I went to sit down, wasn't allowed to get a dictionary. So I thought, well, okay, I'll try and sound it out. So I got a scrap piece of paper and I started to write the word Christmas, and it just didn't look right. So I tried again, and it just didn't look right. I tried mixing the words up, putting them in different orders, and it still didn't look right. So I thought, well, I can't ask her. I can't sound it out. The next thing I'm going to do is have to ask another student. Now, when you're that age and you want to ask somebody how to spell something, you don't just ask anybody, you ask the best speller. So that was Ian Kirby. I thought, I'll ask Ian Kirby, he'll know how to spell it. So I went, Ian, and he didn't hear me. And I went, Ian, and he still didn't hear me. So then I just shouted his name, and the teacher shouted, Cotton, stop disturbing other pupils and get on with your work. I said, but miss, I'm just trying. She said, no, I've had just about enough of you. Either get on with your work or go back up to your room. Oh yeah, I had a room outside the head teacher's office. So I sat there and thought about what the teacher had said. Don't disturb other pupils. Now in my head, don't disturb other pupils, that meant don't disturb other pupils, not Ian. So I thought, well, how can I get Ian's attention without disturbing other pupils? So I'd got a variety of things on my desk, including a rubber. I'm not going to need that. So I picked up my rubber and I threw it at Ian. It was a perfect shot at him just on the side of the neck. And Ian went, Miss, Cotton's just thrown a rubber at me. She said, right, this is your last chance, Cotton. Either get on with your work or go back up to your room. So I sat there and I didn't know what to do. All I needed to do was write Christmas on my Christmas card. I was quite good at art. It would have been the best in the class, of course, if I could only spell Christmas. And then I had an idea. I don't need to write Happy Christmas. I could write Happy Xmas. So that's what I did. Or at least that's what I thought I did. You see, my Christmas card was finished and I took it to the teacher and I gave her the Christmas card and she held it up by the corner and with a look of disgust on her face, she slammed it down on her desk and said, "Everybody, stop what you're doing, look this way and listen." So everybody stopped what they were doing. Everybody looked at me. Now, this was an open plan school. There were 3 classes in the base, but there were 30 children in each class. So effectively, there's 90 children in a room and 3 teachers who all stopped what they were doing and looked at me. And at that point, the teacher held my card up and showed everybody. And she said, "Dean didn't know how to spell Christmas, so he put Zmas." And I'd put a Z instead of an X, and everybody started to laugh. The teacher then held the card up to my face and she ripped it up into pieces, saying, "You stupid, stupid boy." And I didn't know what to do, and I could feel myself starting to cry. And she said, "And now everybody, he's going to cry." Now, at that point, all I could think of was to get out of the room. So I ran out the room, but as I was running out the room, another child stuck his leg out and I tripped over and fell on the floor, and everybody just started to laugh even more. By this point, people had screwed paper up and they were throwing it at me as I was leaving the classroom. That situation had a huge impact on me. And at that point, I thought that it was a negative impact. I can honestly say with my hand on my heart, I would not be sat here now talking to you, doing a job that I absolutely love, if it wasn't for that teacher. You see, I wanted to make, I didn't want other people to experience stuff like that. So, and eventually, when I'd come to terms with it, I honestly believe that that's why I started work in education. I was misunderstood at school. I used to get told off for laughing at the things that the teachers said. So, for example, when a teacher said, "Put your hand up if you're a packed lunch," I laughed because I'm not a packed lunch, I'm a boy. When she said, "Look at the board whilst I go through it," I thought, this is going to be good. How's she going to do that? At school. So when I left school, I didn't want to go back into another school again. To my first business, Dean's Window Cleaning Services, DWCS. We rub a little harder. That was my catchphrase. And I enjoyed doing that, especially in the summer when it was nice and warm and I got my shorts on. I was cleaning the windows, talking to people in the community. Absolutely loved it. But this is England and it's not summer for very long. And a lot of the time it was wet and it was miserable. So I wanted to do something else, and I wanted to be a lorry driver because that's what my dad did. So I got a job as a lorry driver. And one day I had to deliver a parcel to a school called Rainhead School in Bayton in Sheffield. And the head teacher of that school was a guy called Malcolm Stein. Honestly, I owe so much to Malcolm Stein. He was the most influential teacher I had ever met. He was the only teacher I ever met, really, that had time for me. And I was 22 at the time. And I walked into this school with a parcel and I said, "Hey, mate, can you sign for that?" And they said teacher signed for it. And I looked around and I thought, I don't know what really made me say it, but I looked at the head teacher and I said, "This school's amazing. How do you get a job in a school like this?" And he said, "Well, thank you very much." He said, "We've only been open a few days." And he said, "It's great to start from scratch because I've managed to hand pick all our staff. And with it being a new school, lots of people wanted to work here." He said, "But if you wanted to work here, maybe you could come and do some voluntary work." Now, that was a Thursday. And I finished my job that day and I was buzzing about being told that I could go and do some voluntary work in this school. So the next day, I put my best clothes on and I phoned in sick at work and went and delivered a part. I went to the school. I turned up in the morning. And when I walked into the school, the head teacher was there and he looked at me and he obviously didn't recognize me. He said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah." He said I could come and do some voluntary work. So he, I said to me, "Where do you want to work?" And I thought, well, I wouldn't mind working in nursery. So he took me down to nursery and introduced me to the staff. In those days, there were no such thing as DBS checks or CRBs or anything like that. So I went down to nursery and I worked in the nursery for the day and it was absolutely fantastic. I loved every minute of it. But at lunchtime, something happened. A member of staff came to me and said, "You've got to go and have a break." And I was like, "I don't really want a break. I'm absolutely fine." And he said, "No, you need to go and have a break." So I went into the staff room and I sat in the staff room surrounded by teachers eating salads out of Tupperware boxes. And I just sat there, didn't bring any food, and I got myself a cup of tea. And the head teacher came into the staff room, Malcolm, and he said, "Dean, can I have a word with you?" And took me into his office. And I thought, I'm in trouble here. So he said, "How do you think it's going today?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I'm quite enjoying it." And he said, "Well, I've had staff sneaking out of nursery to tell me that I should give you a job. And I would love to give you a job, but I don't actually have a job for you. What sort of qualifications have you got?" And I said, "I haven't got anything. I hated school and I left school with very little." I said, "I think I've got a CSE in art, but I'm not sure." And he said, "Well, maybe if you went to college, you could do some sort of training and maybe then you could get a job doing what you've been doing today." I should have turned that off. Maybe you could get a job doing what you were doing. Maybe if you went to college, you could get a qualification and get a job that you've been doing today. And I thought, well, that sounds like a great idea. So he said, "Well, I can phone Sheffield College now for you if you want," which he did. He phoned Sheffield College and they said to me, "Can you come up for an interview this afternoon?" So just to reiterate the timescale here, I delivered a parcel on Thursday. On Friday, I worked in the nursery. And in Friday afternoon, I had an interview at Sheffield College to do the NNEB course, which was the National Nursery Nurse Examination Board. That was on Friday afternoon. On Friday evening, I packed my job in. And on Monday morning, I started my 2-year NNEB training, which was absolutely amazing. And when I finished that, I got a job working in a nursery. I worked as a nursery nurse for 7 years. And then I fancied a change, wanted to do something different. So I retrained and got a job working in a school for children with social, emotional, and mental health, or EBD, it was called at the time, emotional behavioural difficulties, in 1999. In 1999, I started working this school, and let's say it was very, very interesting. And we needed some training. And I was sent on a course to become a team teach tutor. I met a guy called George Matthews, who was a director of Team Teach. I went back to our schools, trained our staff in Team Teach, and our school witnessed a huge reduction in behaviour incidents, over 95% reduction in 2 years. Now, unfortunately, in 2005, our school closed, and George Matthews asked me if I wanted to work for Team Teach and deliver Team Teach for a living. So that's what I did. But I'll be honest, I felt a little bit like a fraud because I didn't really have any formal training in behaviour support. So at that point, I decided to go back to university. I did a master's degree in teaching and learning, and I focused on behaviour. And 3 years researching behaviour actually helped me create a whole new understanding of behaviour, why people behave the way they do, and where that behaviour comes from. And understanding that gave us a new way to look at behaviour and to support people. I did lots of consultancy work, helping schools and children's homes, and that led me to conceive Behaviour Smart. Now, I'm going to leave that there because I don't think anybody wants to listen to me for an hour. And what I'm going to do with this particular podcast is I'm going to do episode 2, and I'm going to give you a little bit more detail on how we developed Behaviour Smart and a little bit more detail about me. So I hope you found that interesting, and if you haven't, I'm really sorry. And I'll catch you in the next one.
This was the Behaviour Smart podcast, brought to you by Behaviour Smart, the incident recording system that improves behaviour. Join us next time, and thanks for listening.